We often think of heroes as people who work out in the open, in the light of day. But today we're talking about a different kind of hero, ones who do their work in complete darkness. They use a technique that's both celebrated and, at the same time, completely condemned, a technique that can save lives while also taking thousands more. Let's get right into this deadly dilemma. So, our story really kicks off not with a disaster, but with an absolutely miraculous rescue. In late 2023, the whole country was glued to their screens, watching the story of 41 workers who were trapped in a collapsed tunnel. And the people who finally got to them, well, they were a very special kind of expert. You just heard from Nasir Hussain, one of the men right at the heart of that rescue. He and his team are what's known as rat miners. And that moment he's talking about, that moment of pure human connection deep under a mountain, was broadcast all over the world. What happened there highlighted just an incredible contrast. I mean, for days, these huge, multi-million-dollar drilling machines had been grinding away, and they kept failing, breaking down against the tough rock. And then in comes this small team, using basically just hand tools in an old-school method, and they break through the last bit of rubble in just over a day. They became national heroes, literally overnight. And this is where the story gets really complicated. It's a huge paradox, because the same rat hole mining technique that saved those 41 men is illegal. It's considered a death trap, and it's been officially banned in India for years. So what exactly is it? To really get our heads around this, we have to understand the method itself. We need to go, figuratively, inside the rat hole. Honestly, the name kind of says it all. It's a really primitive technique where miners dig these tiny, tiny tunnels, sometimes just 3 feet high. That forces them to crawl on their hands and knees, often for hundreds of feet, just to chip away at coal with simple tools. We're not talking heavy machinery here. There's no advanced ventilation. It's just raw, dangerous human labor. And there are 2 main ways they do it. With side cutting, they just burrow straight into the side of a hill. But with box cutting, it gets even more intense. They dig a deep vertical pit. We're talking as deep as a 40-story building. And then they start digging these tiny horizontal rat holes branching out from the bottom. As you can imagine, both are incredibly dangerous. So you're probably wondering, why on earth would anyone do this? Well, in India's state of Meghalaya, it's really a mix of geology and economics. The coal seams there are just super thin, which makes big industrial-scale mining not really worth it financially. For so many communities there, this low-cost, traditional method is the only way they know to make a living. But that livelihood, it comes at a terrifyingly high cost. This isn't just a job. It's a massive gamble with your life and with the environment every single day. I mean, these mines are basically death traps. The tunnels have no support beams, so collapses happen all the time. During monsoon season, they can flood in an instant. Poisonous gases like methane just build up because there's no ventilation. There's no safety gear, no emergency plan, nothing. And tragically, because the tunnels are so small, it has historically been a place where child labor was common. And just consider this number. In just 7 years, an estimated 10 to 15,000 people died in these mines. Let that sink in. This isn't just an industrial risk. It's a full-blown humanitarian crisis happening underground, often completely out of sight. The damage isn't just to people either. The type of coal there is high in sulfur, and when that mixes with water, you get what's called acid mine drainage. This toxic runoff has turned entire rivers, like the Luka and the Kapili, so acidic and polluted that they run an eerie, unnatural blue. All the fish, all the aquatic life, it's just gone. The entire ecosystem is poisoned. So, with this horrific human and environmental toll, you'd expect this would be shut down for good, right? And officially, it has been. But as we're about to see, a ban on paper and a ban in the real world are 2 very, very different things. All right, so the legal fight has been going on for a while. After kind of getting a pass when mines were nationalized back in the 70s, the practice eventually came under the microscope. In 2014, the National Green Tribunal, or NGT, banned it completely. Then, in 2019, India's Supreme Court backed them up, making it totally, unequivocally illegal. And the NGT's reasoning was crystal clear. They didn't mince words. They called the practice unscientific and unsafe for workers. The whole point of the ban was to stop the constant loss of life and the terrible damage to the environment. Okay, so this brings us to the crucial question. It's the part that's really hard to wrap your head around. If the highest courts in the land have said, no, this is illegal, why is it still happening? Why are these deadly mines still operating all over the place? Well, the answer isn't simple at all. It's really this perfect storm of factors. First, you have pure economic desperation. Mining wages can be way higher than farming. For many, there are just no other options. Second, there's this weird legal gray area. A part of the Constitution gives tribal communities in Meghalaya unique ownership over their land and what's under it, which clashes with national mining laws. You add in weak enforcement, some corruption, and a really strong demand for cheap coal, and what you get is a booming black market. So you see, ending this crisis isn't as simple as just passing a law. It requires a massive shift in economics, in regulation, and in culture. People are desperately searching for a way out of this deadly cycle. The proposed legal alternative is called scientific mining. And the difference is like night and day. You're going from primitive manual labor to planned, mechanized extraction. You're going from zero safety protocols to mandatory ventilation and supports. It's a shift from an illegal, destructive free-for-all to a regulated industry that's actually required to fix the land when they're done. But, and this is a really big but, making that switch is so much easier said than done. It requires huge amounts of money that these small communities just don't have. It means training people in completely new skills. And it means trying to combine all these small family-owned plots of land into larger areas big enough for modern mining. That's a huge legal and logistical nightmare. So maybe the most important solution has nothing to do with mining at all. It's about creating other ways for people to make a good living. And there are some really hopeful signs here. Community programs are popping up to train former miners in things like sustainable farming. One project that's really cool involves teaching women how to grow oyster mushrooms, creating a totally new, safe source of income that doesn't force anyone to crawl into the darkness. And that brings us right back to where we started. The story of Rat Hole Mining isn't a simple one about heroes and villains. It's about a complicated system where a deadly, illegal practice is also, for thousands of people, their only lifeline. So solving it means more than just shutting down the death traps. It means building new lifelines to take their place. So the question we're left with is this: how do you solve a crisis that is both a death trap and a lifeline?